keep moving here. And I keep looking at it. So I'm looking for anything that, that's EMG, eye movements, and we're focusing on this one right here. This is the one we cleaned, this is the one we want to look at. This is the one we had collected, this is what we took away. And so, as you can see, the EEG is looking much better. Okay, we have some movement here at O1 and O2, but that's nothing to really be upset about. So I'm just going to do a quick sweep. And if you see, we have electro pop. Where? C4. So this person moved and we had that at C4. So I'm going to look for it, which is right here, and it goes away. All right. So again, EEG is looking cleaner. We're getting rid of that. We had a good recording. We had some basic artifacts. So doing the editing is not going to take a long time. It's not going to be a big headache. And we're going to be able to have a clean EEG that we can do an interpretation of. Now we have a little bit of a electropop here, which is P3. And we can see if we can clean that without affecting that too much. So I'm going to look for P3. There you go. So it did take the artifact away, but it didn't affect the rest of the reading. Okay, that's real brainwave activity. And I'm going to go back to that. So see, we got the electrode pop. We don't want to affect this here. We just want to get rid of this here. And so I get rid of that as much as I can. And so what I do is a sweep of that. That is some EMG activity. That's some muscle tension. Okay, and we're not going to try to get rid of that from here because then we are going to affect the EEG. So manually, we're going to be able to take it away. Okay. So we have some EMG residuals. For the most part, the EEG looks really good. And I'm going to click on it and look at how much better it looks. See that? So we got rid of most of the eye blinks. We have real brainwave activity. And so I'm going to look for additional artifacts that I'm going to have to remove manually because the algorithm is not perfect. All right. So for instance, we have some electric discharge or muscle discharge. So I do left click, right click, and I go to the scissors here, and it cuts it out. So anything with a blue line underneath is not considered for the analysis. All right. So I keep looking here. That looks good. That looks good for the most part. And we're not going to do a class on EEG editing and anything. So whenever you want to look at it, we can dedicate more time later to it. Now this is an eye blink that the algorithm didn't take care of. So again, left click, and I'm going to go right click because there's some residuals here, and I cut it out with the scissors. And so I keep doing this until I have all the editing I need and I'm satisfied with it so I can do a right interpretation. Now here we have some movement. It's not the end of the world here and here, but just in case, I'm going to get rid of that. And so I keep sweeping and sweeping, and this is real right here, but this is some activity that I want to get rid of, okay? Because that's a movement right there. It's an eye movement. Again, that's movement. See how it pops? So I want to get rid of that. And that's another eye blink with a lateral eye movement. I'm going to get rid of that. Okay. Okay. So again, another one. Another one. So see, this, we're already halfway through. It's about halfway through, and this client is getting tired. They're frowning, They're wrinkling the forehead, so we're gonna have to get rid of that. So it's not easy sitting there for 10 minutes with your eyes open. It's tiring. So you're gonna see those. That's real right there. And that's good. Okay, so we're gonna leave it at that. And I'm gonna save that. So it saved the changes. Good. Now, remember that I told you the two characteristics of the brainwaves, right? Which are what? Which are what are the two components of the brainwaves? The frequency and the amplitude. Good. So here's where we're going to start identifying what the arousal for this client is. And we're going to be able to tell by the brainwave morphology. All right? So remember, big amplitudes are for what brainwaves? So the higher the amplitude, the slower the frequency. So when you have big amplitudes, it's going to mean slow brainwaves, okay? So if you do a sweep, you can tell there's another discharge right here, okay? And there's another discharge right here. So as you look at it, what do you see? Do you see more prevalence of slow brainwaves or fast brainwaves? Or both, maybe. Yeah, there's a little bit of both, okay? So the fast brainwaves look like this. Okay, so that's some beta going on there, okay? And they're small and they're fast. And we have some beta brainwaves here too. They're small and they're fast. They're little, small in amplitude, fast in frequency, and then we have some discharges of slow brainwave activity, such as this one right here. See that? But we have some fast brainwave activity too. So we have a little bit of both, okay? So now the next step is to know what kind of activity it is, right? And where in the brain it is happening. So I'm going to go back here, and we're going to start with the analysis. So see this right here? It starts around 5 seconds and a little bit, and it ends about 7 seconds. We have a discharge right there. See that right there? If you see that once, it's very likely that you're going to see it again. All right? Once you see something once that gets your attention, it's very likely that you see it again. All right? So we're going to look for that. We're just going to focus on this type of activity. So I want you to make a mental note of that, what it looks like, and I'm going to move the EEG, and you tell me when you see it again. So when you see it again, you just tell me stop, okay? So I'm going to click here. And if you see it again, just say stop. There we go. So see, we see it once. Oops, sorry about that. We see it once, we see it again. So it happened here, and again it happened here. So it happened at about 5 seconds, again at the 54-second mark. All right? So that's significant. If it is happening more than once, it's significant. Now, that's a slow brain wave discharge right there, okay? And what frequency do we know? Well, we count. So remember, this and this is 1 second, right? So we're going to count cycles. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So that's what brainwave? That's theta. So we have an 8 hertz theta rhythm right here. Okay? And let's count in the back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a half. Okay? Now, remember, The higher the amplitude, the slower the frequency. So where is the frequency slower in this second? Let's focus on the 54 seconds. Where is it slower? In the front, in the middle, or in the back? In the back. Very good. So you can see that there's some slowing here and there's some slowing here, but this is slower. Why is it slower? Because it's higher in amplitude. Okay? Does anybody not understand this? If you don't understand it, please raise your hand. Don't be afraid. Okay, so yeah, raise your hand. Let me see. Who else? Okay, so remember, the higher the amplitude, the bigger the brainwave, the slower it is. So what you are going to look at is the amplitude here. So which is bigger, this one or this one? Which one of the two is bigger, this one or that one? The ones in the back, right? So because they're bigger, they're going to be slower. Because the bigger they are, the slower they move. Now, the other way we can know is by counting. So let's count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's an 8 hertz theta rhythm. If we count here, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 6.5. Again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? So it's slower. So we got 8 hertz here, but we have 6 hertz here. Okay? Is that understood now? Is that understood now? Okay. So, yes, we have a discharge, but it's slower in the back. So, that should grab your attention. And you should start saying, oh, okay, they're slowing, but it's slower in the back. And what area is slower? We got PC, P3, P4, so it's the parietal lobe. So we have 6 hertz theta in the parietal cortex. Let's start throwing out hypotheses. What would you suspect? So what you start suspecting? So there you go. So you can look at your booklets, and you can look at your neuroanatomy, and then you go, oh, I think is. So what do you think this could mean? What's the significance for the client? So remember, PC, it's your self-regulation, right? So if it is too slow, what could it mean? It's brain processing speed. So look at your booklet, look at your Brodmann areas, look at your parietal cortex. You got theta, and you got slow theta, so you got 6 hertz theta right there. Okay? So what does PC control? PZ, P3, P4. So that's going to be, remember when I told you that was the attentional distortion of time and space? So PC is that, it's your, your math, your episodic memory, all those things, right? So we have a slower rhythm. Now, you have the discharge. When you get a discharge like this with containing slow brainwave activity, it means that the brain is going offline. Okay, the brain is going offline. This person is losing track of time and space for that 1 second. So if that were any of you, and I'm talking right now, and this happens, you're going to skip that second in time. And you're going to go, what did Santiago say? Now when you add it over and over and over again, it means the brain is going offline. It means there's hypoperfusion. There's less oxygen and less blood getting to the brain. Okay? So I'm talking and I'm talking again, and in this second I have no idea what the information was because my brain just went. It's if I flip the lights and I go on and off real quick, that's what happened. That's what's happening in this brain. Okay? So the other thing that we need to know, it's happening from front to back. Okay? And that's something called phase stability. So I'm going to drag the channel, and you're going to see that the brain waves are moving in phase, meaning the channels are going to coincide. And how do you know that? Well, you grab the channel and drag it down. Does it overlap? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. Does this overlap? Does this overlap? There's overlap. And let's go to the back. Does this overlap? Does it overlap? Does it overlap? Yes. So, to be able to identify whether that's real or not, you use two concepts. One is field, and the other one is phase. So you might look at that and you go, well, that could be artifact. How do you know if it is real or not? You use field and phase. Okay? Field means that it's taking place at least at two different parts of the brain. And phase means that the brain waves are moving in phase. So if you look at this one, you could think that's an artifact. But if you see the brain waves, they're moving in phase. This one will overlap with this one, and this one will overlap with this one. And how do you know? Again, you can take the channel and drag it down. So, see that? There's field and phase. So again, look at this one and look at this one. If I drag it down, field and phase? Yes or no? Yes. So, there's field, there's phase. Is that real or is that fake? It is? Remember, if there's field and phase, it is real. So is that real or is that fake? It's real. So we have phase stability here. Okay? Which means there's field and phase, there's field and phase, there's field and phase, there's field and phase, and they're stable. There's phase stability, okay? When you have phase stability, you get something called hypercoherence. Phase stability will drive up the coherence, all right? So, to understand hyper and hypocoherence, I want you to do a simple example, an exercise. I want you to turn to the person next to you, okay? So, face somebody who's next to you, all right? And we're gonna do hypercoherence first. So I want you to look at the person in front of you or next to you, and I want you, when I say 1, 2, 3, go, when I say go, I want you to talk at the same time. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Talk at the same time with the person next to you or in front of you. All right? At the same time, the two of you at the same time. All right, you can stop now. Okay, so that's hypercoherence, okay? So you can stop now. That's hypercoherence. It means the two parts of the brain are talking at the same time, okay? And that is not supposed to happen, all right? That cannot and is not supposed to happen in the brain. So what that means is the front of the brain and the back of the brain are talking to each other at the same time, okay? You have hyperactivation of those networks, all right? So you have the front of the head and the back of the head trying to do things at the same time, all right? That's not possible. That's not supposed to happen. It is like the two of you were talking at the same time. You are not going to understand the message. All right? Now let's do hypocoherence. So I want you again, when I say go, you're going to talk to the person next to you, but you're going to talk very slowly. So that, you know, one person is going to say hi, and then the other person is going to wait a long time and say hi. Okay, so I want you to take turns talking, but take a long time to say the message, all right? 1, 2, 3, go. All right, you can stop now. So, as you can see, you're talking to each other, but the message is taken too low. All right, so that's hypocoherence. There's hypoconnectivity. It means the message is taking too long to get from one part of the brain to the next. All right, so in hypercoherence, the message is it's overloaded. In hypocoherence, the message is not getting there. Okay. So when you have phase stability, that's hypercoherence. All right? Phase stability. Remember, I dragged it and it overlapped. Now, the biggest source of the problem in this segment of time is the parietal cortex. Why? Because the amplitudes are higher, which means the frequency is slower. All right? So even though we have hypercoherence, the main problem is the occipital part. So that would make me start thinking, okay, so maybe I need to pay attention to this and this, but I need to pay attention to the occipital cortex, because that's where the biggest source of the problem is. Okay. Now we're gonna look for it again. So happens once, happens again. See that again? It's not as pronounced as the previous one, but it's there. And again, see that again? So you can see the amplitudes being higher. It's consistent, see? They have the 6-7 hertz rhythm and the slower frequencies here because the amplitudes are higher. Okay? So, see, as you start looking at it, it starts making sense. And then your brain starts computing. So let's look at it. There it is again. And there it is again. So it's happened several times. Okay. So we know that's significant. Why do we know it's significant? Because it's happening over and over and over again. All right? Why else do we know it's significant? Because we have high amplitudes. Are we supposed to have too much theta? Do we want too much theta in the brain? No. Do we want too much delta? Do we want too much slow alpha? No, we don't want too much of anything, either for fast or slow brainwaves, right? So that's a problem. So if the brain is going offline several times over a period of time, what is going to be the significance for the client? What's going to happen to that client? He's going to get distracted a lot. All right? And distraction is part of ADD. Now, notice we're not calling it ADD. In our heads, we know it's ADD, and we want to make people happy and say it's ADD because the client wants a name for it, because they want to make sense of what's happening to them. But we can call it a tendency for the brain to go offline at certain moments in time. And notice how different that is than saying you're ADD. You know, the wording makes a huge difference to the client. If this were you, which one would you prefer to hear? You have a tendency for your brain, you know, to disconnect, and we can fix that, or would you rather the clinician say you're ADHD? If this were my EEG, I would prefer to hear the first one, right? Because if they tell me you're ADHD, well, that's hard to swallow. You know, that's a blow. So again, we have a tendency. Good. So we have identified one thing. That's one thing of several things, right? And there it is again. And there it is again. That's EMG, that doesn't count. Look at it. See that? So you start seeing the pattern now, right? So you start getting an idea. Okay, so. All right. So you get an idea. Now, that's one thing. Now, the way I like to do the analysis, I usually start through the midline. So I start FZ, CZ, PC, and then I go to the rest of the brain. So that's the way we're going to do it, okay? So I want you to focus on FZ, which is this channel right here. All right? And we can look at it all together, or we can isolate it, which means we can do this and show just that channel. So that's FZ. All right? So, again, we can do a count. Or we can tell by the morphology what things look like. So we got some slow brain waves. We got some fast brain waves, right? See that right there? Got some fast brain waves and some slow brain waves. So let's go with the slow brain waves first. FZ, anterior cingulate cortex. What is the significance of having slow theta and slow alpha at FZ? So what do you think, how do you think it's going to affect the client? What's the manifestation going to be? Right, and there you go. You go back to your booklet. It's completely valid. And again, in a few months, you're gonna, or in a few months or a couple of years, you're not going to need the booklet anymore, because by then you will have learned your neuroanatomy from repeating it so much that you don't need it anymore. Or you can refer back to it if there's something specific you want to look at. So it is okay to look at it for now, and whenever we start in this field, we'll look at it. So that's completely valid. But if we have slow theta brainwaves, so we have about 6-7 hertz at FZ. What's the significance? What are you going to suspect is happening? Attention. Mm-hmm. What else? There's problems with motivation, so probably the person is poorly motivated. Maybe. What else? Maybe some anxiety, yes, because that's the limbic system as well, so maybe some anxiety, very good. And how about the fast brainwaves? What would be the consequences of having fast brainwaves? Because we have some beta riding on top of the theta. So see, there's some beta here, there's some beta here, there's a little bit of beta here. So what would be the repercussions of having too much beta there at FZ? So again, it could be anxiety. What else? What's the other big one for the frontal cortex for FZ? Rumination. All right. So this person probably has a lot of rumination. You know, that thought enters their head and they go and start thinking over and over and over again. Okay. So is that clear? Are we good with FZ? Makes sense? And we can drag the channel and you'll see it's a steady pattern. Again, beta, see the beta right there? That's some fast beta. We have some slow brainwave activity, but we have some fast brainwave activity. And if I keep moving, we're gonna see the pattern. So, rumination, anxiety, attention, motivation, everything you've said is probably, this client is probably presenting that. So let's look at the other channels. Now, the other thing that I do to know whether it's just one region generating that rhythm or is different ones is that I do field and phase. So again, we are going to take FZ and we're going to bring it to F4. That's an overlap. Yes, no, maybe, yes. Does it overlap with F3? Okay, so it overlaps more with F3 than F4, but it overlaps with both. And what that means is that the generator for that rhythm is the whole frontal cortex.